2, 3, and.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Real Talk, Real Change, where we talk real. Everything is real. Real growth, real change, real faith, just real. We just keep it real. So listen, I'm glad you guys had a chance to tune in this evening. What we are going to be talking about, my husband is my guest for tonight. And he is going to be sharing with you all how he actually started, what inspired him, because he wrote 2 ebooks that he published, and they're out right now on Amazon Kindle. And he's just going to share pretty much what motivated him to write the books, as far as, how long it may have took him to write the books. He's just going to share his journey with writing the book and just kind of give you a little background about what he wrote in his book. He's not going to tell you everything in the book now, because we can't tell you that, because we want you to get the book. But believe me, once you get the ebook, it will bless your life. I'm telling you. So I'm not going to keep talking. I'm going to go ahead and let him get started, introduce himself, and then he can go ahead and get started with what inspired him to start and where it all took place and all of that good stuff.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rubin T Bradley, and I'm blessed to be here. I'm blessed to be a part of what my wife got going here. It's so inspiring to see her on a weekly basis preparing this stuff to give the info and being led by God and doing such a wonderful job. And basically, first and foremost, I was inspired by her. You know what I mean? I saw that she wrote a book 9 years ago, and just the point of seeing that she was able to accomplish that placed something in me. I've been sober about 35 years. It'll be 35 years come July. And in the process, I look back and see how God has brought me from where he brought me from, and how he's played such an intricate role in all the things. And one thing I must always say to everybody, that the story is never over. We're always growing. We're always going through seasons. We're always learning new. God is always placing something different in our lives for us to comprehend, something for us to deal with, or something for us to go through. And I think first and foremost, when I started thinking about writing a book, I started thinking that I have to talk about my spiritual connection with God, because if it wasn't for God, none of this stuff would be possible. And my spiritual connection was, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all things. He didn't say some things, he said all things would entail. And that's basically what I did. In the beginning of the year, I started journaling. I started just writing down my thoughts, the things that I was going through, the stuff that I saw, and the stuff that I was feeling. And what I realized in my journal, that I could basically track a path of what everything was entailed and why I was going through some of these things. And so a while back, I started doing some videos, because I've always wanted to be able to write a book. So I started doing like 20-minute videos, of basically what it was like. I didn't want to go through talking about a drunkalogue or anything like that. I basically wanted to spell out the recovery aspects of it, and what God placed in front of me, and the steps that was took, and the people that were placed in my life that inspired me. And I remember in the room, in recovery rooms, they would say, take what you need and leave the rest. So if somebody said something that was inspirational, something that I felt that was going to be beneficial to me, I would add that to my cognitive thought and my living. And that basically would be it for that point. And then the next time I would go, and one day led up to another one, and another day led up to another one. And I can remember when I first got sober, people were saying after 90 days, they're going to want you to tell your story. And that was frightening to me. I was like, I had to get up there and tell people what this thing was like. And, you know, what that did, that helped me to be able to express myself a lot more with people and let people know what it was like, what I was feeling, what I was thinking. And it became easy. It didn't become easy. It became easier, you know what I mean? Because, I mean, even now, you know, you get the bubble guts and the butterflies in your stomach when you're talking about yourself or expressing the stuff that you've gone through or the stuff that you've experienced. And I have an uncle who lives in Beaufort who wrote a book, and I was so inspired. I read his book, and it basically was all spiritually based, you know what I mean? Scriptures up and down, left and right, and that also was something that inspired me. So I found out that I could take my video transcripts and turn them into transcripts. So that's what I did. I turned the video transcripts that I had into transcripts, and then that was the start of the beginning on trying to put all the stuff on paper. But also, after I completed the book about my sobriety and what 30 years of sobriety was entailed, I knew there was something else in there. And the other book is called The In-Between. And the in-between is basically that space in your mind when you're waiting for God to act on certain things or to bring you through certain things. And not only that, but in the in-between, it could be a spiritual journey where you get feeling at peace and you're feeling that God is going to direct you. But it also can be another part where all the stinking thinking goes in there, and you have to figure out basically in the in-between, what are my thoughts? What are my actions? How do I act on it? How do I place God in these scenarios to overcome these things that are going through me? And one thing I must say that, I mean, no one does it perfect. We all go through a stage where we fall and stumble, but we don't have to fall all the way down. Right. We can pick ourselves up and build our pieces. And that's basically mostly what are the things that I did as far as, you know, writing that book and completing those things. So, excuse my language, excuse me. Those were basically the steps that were took. I would tell everybody, please get that book, you know what I mean? I shared a lot of stuff, personal things, feelings that I went through, thoughts and actions, what I felt was far as spiritually based, what I thought that the Bible was saying to me in certain terms, and I just put it down there on paper, and that was basically what I did to get this stuff done. I can go on and on, but there's so many things that entailed in there that I feel that just like my wife working on her second book, which should be coming out soon, you know, there's another one in me. And I really got into this journaling part and writing things down and expressing my feelings and my thoughts and connecting different passages in the Bible to where I am today. And that's basically what it all entails. So, you know, that's the story.
So what about, what would you say as far as, when did you find the time? I mean, because, you know, you work, and so when did you find the time to actually, you know, to put all your stuff together? Because I know you had a lot of
when
stuff.
It came down to journaling, you know, I worked on security, and sometimes on some of these posts, you know what I mean, you have some of that downtime, and I would just sit back and just write a lot of that stuff down. I kept a little notepad with me where I would just start writing and connecting pieces and connecting dots and going, so that's what I thought, that's what I feel. And then I researched a lot of the stuff that I was writing about, you know what I mean, just to get an input of that means this means that, and how I implemented those things into a daily living thing, you know.
Mm-hmm. So was there a part that that seemed longer than you expected? What part took longer than you might have expected?
I think it all is a process, because if you're not aware of the things that you have to do and the steps that need to be taken, then I didn't really hound you about a lot of the stuff you did. You just told me that you had somebody that assisted you, and I went through that process of trying to get other people that would help me connect the dots on what did I needed to do and what was the course of actions I needed to take in order to get that stuff done. And eventually, one thing led to another, another led to another, and then finally, afterwards, it was to that point of when it said, okay, it's published. You are a published author. And I had to sit with that for a while because I was in awe, you know what I mean? Because this was something that I wanted to do. This was something that I wanted to leave back for my family to be able to see and tell the stuff that I went through and the stuff that I encountered. Because, I mean, we get to speak to our relatives and so forth, but we're not basically there on a regular basis for them to actually see your growth or the things that you've encountered through life or the changes that have been made. And I think these are something that we should leave for the future generation so they can actually use these things to benefit them.
Right. Now, I want to just correct one thing, y'all. He said that I did help a little bit now. I did help a little bit. Maybe not as much, and I did with my first book, I did have someone, I actually had a mentor myself, so it made it easier for me, but he did pretty much all of it with the publishing and everything. So how has publishing changed how you see yourself? Because, I mean, that's kind of huge.
It really hasn't changed me to that point. It made me more thirsty for knowledge as far as placing my thoughts and my feelings down and the directions that I use to go the course of life and my spiritual growth. And I think all of it, everything that I wrote was spiritually based. You know what I mean? It was basically what God did, how God brought me through, what was the insight on most things, how do I be still in these situations, stuff that you encounter, things that you deal with on work relations, the people that you encounter. And, you know, you talk about the growth, because there was a time when, you know, I could care less about certain things. But now, you know, when God gets in the mix, you know what I mean, there's a change that comes about. And the change that comes about is that you become more concerned with your behalf. You become more concerned with those behalves. And you basically want to pass on that message that God gave you, that, you know, this too shall pass. God is in the midst. You know what I mean? Call on the name of Jesus. You know, pray. You got to pray. And you just got to hold steadfast. Be still and know that I am God. You know, and then there's certain scriptures that you can do. And then praying and getting in the Word. Getting into that Word is going to give you a lot more direction. It's going to basically say, this is the course of action that was taken. These are what the disciples did. And I used to always say, when I saw that passage, Jesus said, rarely, rarely I say unto you. And to me, it rarely, rarely meant over and over and over, because I don't think those disciples had got it right in one little nit and pick. You know what I mean? They had to go through things, and then eventually, when that Holy Spirit kicked in, you know what I mean? They was at full blast. It was like, all right, let's do this. You know what I mean? And it was on the go. So when God lights a fire to you, you know what I mean? You're not supposed to hold that talent. You're supposed to use it to benefit others and feed his sheep. So that's where that goes at, you know, feed my sheep.
Right. So how different were your expectations from the reality of writing them?
I think when you're facing the unknown, not knowing basically what you're going to encounter, knowing basically what people are going to perceive or how people are going to think, and then eventually when you get over that stuff, you just basically, it shows how God has interacted in your life and where he's brought you from. And if you're going to stand there and talk about God, you better live the part, you know what I mean? Not just be a false prophet, because those false prophets are going to pay the price of it. So that's basically what it was. I wanted to spell out what God has done, how he's still interacting. I'm far from perfect, but I'm not that person I used to be, you know what I mean? I'm more aware of my spiritual grounding and what God is doing and what he's calling me in the direction to do.
Okay, so if you had to describe your two books as why they exist, what would you say?
I think they exist because, I mean, we as kids, because that's basically, I started drinking and experimenting at an early age. I think it was around 12, 13 years old. And I never got to the point where I developed to say that I was a social drinker. I never became a social drinker. I always drank to basically get there. And that was my mindset at that time. So when it came down to the change and the different occurrence, I had already knew that I was broken in that sense. So I needed to be rehabilitated. And rehabilitated sometimes is the same thing as just say renewing of the mind. I needed God to plant those seeds to give me directions on where I'm supposed to go and what I'm supposed to do. And he placed those people in my life. I remember walking into, an after patient rehab thing and dealing with this big lady. And she said, oh, it's going to be okay. And, I almost melted, you know what I mean? Because I had always tried to stop on my own, you know what I mean? But then I would get to the point where I felt that I was there. And I would test the waters again. I'd be right back at the same thing. It was over and over, a pattern. And it was a pattern that needed to be broken. And I found out today that I didn't need those things in my life. I don't need alcohol to be sociable. I don't need alcohol to give me that false courage. I have other tools. So with those, it's just about developing. And I didn't take no big leaps and no expounds. I took baby steps to get to where I felt that I was comfortable and how it was going to lead me and direct me.
And I feel like you're nowadays, well, I won't say nowadays, but when we go through stuff, our test is like a testimony. So I feel like your books are your testimony of what you went through. And I sat here and I listened to you when you did those videos, and I heard the stories, and I was just kind of like, wow, like I would have never known that, we talked about it, before we got married and all of that stuff, but to actually sit down and listen, well, actually I wasn't sitting down listening, I was just in the other room, but to hear you and to hear what, everything that you went through, and then to actually now have it on an ebook, that's awesome. And I believe that it will bless other people because you put yourself out there. You put yourself out there with both, especially with the second one, with the
in between?
No, the other one.
Oh, the sobriety.
Right, with that one. You put yourself out there and you actually, let people know what you went through. I feel like both of them are bestsellers. They will be and they are already, because that's huge. That's important that you shared what you did, and somebody's going to see it. Somebody's going to not only see this video, but people are going to purchase that ebook because they might be going through, or somebody else might be going through. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like that was huge with the books that you wrote. And I'm gonna tell y'all, I was really, really surprised because not that I didn't think he had it in him, because I always told him when I first met him and he started sharing some stuff with me, I said, you got a book, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. And because I was just like, wow, somebody else need to hear that. So when he actually started doing it, I was kind of like, okay, he for real. He is really doing this. And he was really, I could see the excitement in him when he was writing it, because he would always come and, tell me, hey, listen to this or listen to this. And I'm like, here we go. All right, let me hear what you got to say. You're going to tell me the whole book. But I knew he was excited, and I was just like so excited for him because, like I said, I always told him, you need to write a book. Not that I didn't think he was going to write two, but I told him he needed to do that, and he did. And I'm like so proud of him because that's huge. That is huge for him, and I think it's awesome. So I guess I'm not the only author in the house anymore, because now it's two of us. So, but yeah, this is not really one of my longest lives tonight, because we just really wanted to get on here and just kind of let him share, how he got started, and, just to tell a little bit about the book. And where you can get the book. You can go ahead and give them.
The book is on Amazon Kindle. It's listed under Rubin T Bradley, and
And the names?
one is In Between, Clarity, and the other one is Sober Journey, 30 years. I put 30 years. It was 30 years when I started writing that stuff, but I'm at 35 years come July. So God is definitely in the works. You can find those books on Amazon Kindle, and they're not expensive, and they're very enriching. And, hopefully somebody else will find joy out of it like I found from writing them.
Yeah, no, I know they will, because like I said, it's a blessing. It's definitely a blessing. So, and of course, y'all know I'm going to have to throw this in here because I just relaunched my book again today. I just relaunched it today. I do, but now I don't. How Not to Live in Regret of the Marriage Decision. You can also find my book on Amazon. And yeah, I just relaunched it today.
And the second one is coming out soon,
And
real soon.
Yeah, the second one. I have been working on my second one for some weeks now. So many people. My husband, for one, he always kept telling me, you need to write your second book. And I just kind of like, I'll do it whenever. I'm gonna do it. I'm just not led to do it just yet. I couldn't, because I didn't want to sit there. I needed to be led to start it. I just wasn't gonna. Because trust me, you sit down and try to write something that you're not ready to write, you just gonna have like writer's block, as they say. So, but he told me, you need to write your book. Another lady, another sister of mine, she told me, Elfrida, actually it was Elfrida Jackson. She told me to.
Elfrida.
Yes, and I did start it, girl. I started the book. She was telling me, because she read my last book, and she was saying that I needed to write another one. And there was so many other people that had kept encouraging me, you should start when you going to write your next book? When you going to write it? So you know what? I'm writing it now, and that's another reason why I relaunched my other book as well, because once you read that one, then the next one, you understand the next one even more so. So, on that note, y'all, thank y'all so much for joining us.
I hope you enjoy, and please
on this quick live. Books. Yeah, this was a quick live for me today.
Appreciate everyone that has encouraged us and who sent out congratulations and so forth. Even on our anniversary, we're blessed to be together, and hopefully the second book will say, I do.
I'm not gonna tell y'all what the second one say, but it's gonna be good, y'all. I'm telling you, it's gonna be good. So again, thank you all. This was a quick live, but I just wanted to get on here so he can share his information with you all. We love you guys. Have a blessed evening, we will talk to you soon.
But God first, everything else fall into place.
Absolutely. Love y'all.